be
Yeah,
helping
Catherine
out?
is joining us
All
as
right, cool.
well. Thank you so much, Juan. And it's so good to see all of you this week after coming back from what felt like a very restful break for all of us. I hope that you are all charged up and restored and ready to go. Thank you so much for allowing Catherine and I to join your meeting today. Many of your organizations have college access services as part of your portfolio. So we felt that it was important for us to come and talk to you about our FAFSA efforts with the class of 2021. The goal of our time today with you is to really bring to your attention the big push for this particular class, our senior class, who are in the last stretch of their senior year and in deep with the application processes for colleges and financial aid and scholarships, and really help for your support as we work to see some more gains in the FAFSA completion process and get them to start as well as complete their FAFSAs by our internal kind of BPS deadline of March 15th, which we feel will open up access for them to get more of a solid financial aid award letter from their respective institutions. We need your help because of our focus is really on marginalized populations, and that's where we're seeing most of the gaps in non-completers of the FAFSAs at this particular time. And in the next few minutes, what we'll do is we'll share with you some data and discuss some strategies on elevating this particular message and how we are using the data to really strengthen our coordination with our school level partners, as well as with many of you, and our outreach to our families and students in supporting them with this important milestone in this virtual space. And one, I'll ask you now to just move to the next slide. And as you move to the next slide, I'll invite my colleague, Catherine Shrew, to do some additional framing.
Hi, thank you, Marcia, and thank you to all the Success Boston coaches for the opportunity. I think we're speaking to a group of people who know the context really well. But what we really wanted to do was highlight this, but ask for collective work. Really, the state Department of Higher Education, as well as DESE, has been doing a FAFSA completion calculations and sending reports back out to each of the individual school districts and the high schools. And they have recorded that there is a FAFSA completion gap between December 2019 and December 2020. And what it boils down to is when there is a FAFSA completion gap, that really leads to an opportunity gap, because we know, especially in the Metro Boston area, some type of post-secondary credential really is important in terms of accessing opportunities. So when there's an opportunity gap, that really leads to an outcome gap. And I think about when the outcome gap happens, we call it the waterfall effect, as DESE has shown in some of their data, it leads to disparate impact. And so if you could go to the next slide. I think you've been talking with students on the ground. I just want to put this in the framing of, if students, we understand there is a huge health disparate impact with this. It's how do we find the messaging, but also provide the support, but collectively say it is hard and we can do this. So I put together the information from the Boston Public Health Commission, as well as the US Census. This is the BPHC updates this Monday through Friday. So every week they update it once a week. And the breakdown from the US Census as the percentage of the population is in one of the columns, and then the known cases. And if you take a look at the number of known deaths, African American, Black Americans have a disproportionate impact in terms of deaths, and Latinx families have a high number of known cases, more than their percentage of the population. What is interesting about the data is that the deaths are not as there tends to be recovery from that. When I think about this and the why, it's thinking about who are our families who are working, who are not able to work from home. We're all working from home. And at the same time, I always also think we're all working from home, and most of us have some type of post-secondary credential. And so that's the framing of why we're coming to the entire city to ask for support and participation in our class of 2021 FAFSA initiative. Next slide.
So as Catherine mentioned, BPS, we receive data directly from DESE that really tells us if a student has submitted a completed FAFSA, or if they've submitted a FAFSA, but it's not completed, or if they've not submitted anything. So there's absolutely no record that's found for that particular student. We then take that data and we upload it to our Naviance platform on the back end. So our counselors can really coordinate with our partners and identify the students who they need to really target services for. Here on this particular slide, you will see the completion data for the seniors, so the class of 2024, as of this past December 30th. I want to note that this does not include some of our Horace Mann charters, so EMK, Boston Green, and some of our in-district charter schools, but it does give us a really solid snapshot of where we are. We are seeing a total of 22% of our current senior class having completed a FAFSA. That's not against the percentage of graduates, because of course we know they haven't graduated yet. So right now, until July, we really measure the completion rate against every single student who is coded in our Aspen system as being a senior. When you look at the breakdown by race, we see that the completion rates for our Black students is at 17% and our Latinx students at 14%. We also see our female students completing at double the number of our male students, and only about 17% of our economically disadvantaged students have submitted a completed FAFSA, compared to 35% of our students who are not economically disadvantaged. So we see that the students who can really benefit from completing the FAFSA the most are lagging behind their peers a bit. Next slide, one. This slide, here you will see our overall FAFSA completion numbers for the class of 2020. Now, this is last year, and we wanted to give this to you as a comparison because we even fell short here, but what we don't want to do with the class of 2021 is fall even shorter. So the blue bar shows the completion rate against the total number of seniors in the class. And the orange bar indicates the percentage of BPS graduates from that class who completed a FAFSA. So you will see here that we had 49% of our overall seniors submitting a completed FAFSA, and that number goes up even higher to 59% of our graduates. Then you can see here how that number is broken down even further by student demographics. And again, we want to be sure that our students who are most likely to benefit from financial aid are really positioned early and right now to apply sooner than later for this opportunity. Next slide. And I'll ask Catherine to dive a little deeper here because she's been sitting with DESE on a lot of this.
This slide is directly from the presentation that DESE did actually to the Board of Higher Ed in December. So what they have found is that nationally at December, around Thanksgiving time, FAFSA completion was down 16% and Massachusetts was down 18% in comparison to the same point last year, which was pre-pandemic. And I think this is just good and helpful information to think about, like, while we are, again, the context, yes, we are in a pandemic. Yes, our students and our families are hit particularly hard. And yes, the way that they will best take care of their family and themselves and their community is to increase their skills so that they can access those opportunities that are afforded by it. So this is the state, and the state has been having these conversations to think about what efforts that they should put in place for the spring. Next slide, please.
So what are some strategies and opportunities that we can really plug into together as a practitioner community? First, there's, communication and getting this out to the public is very important. So our families need to understand that there are resources and support both at the school level and the community level to really support them through this application process. So if any of you through your organizations have connections to local news outlets, so local community newspapers, radio or television broadcasting, I think we would love to work with you to really push this out, particularly in multiple languages, and make sure that everyone knows about your organizations and our counselors and the work they're doing with their school-based partners to really walk the family through this process that can feel really daunting. But once you break it down into smaller steps and help the family to manage that, I think they can see the possibility with the appropriate support. Partner coordination is key. Again, we have been pulling together our school-based agencies and working closely with the counselors to create micro kind of school level ecosystems for each student, and identify like a lead agency who is going to journey with that particular family. Some organizations we recognize have non-disclosure agreements, which will allow them to see the student level data, but all organizations, in addition to all of you after this call, we will work with Antonia and Juan to provide you with school level data, completion data every 2 weeks, so you can see how your partner high schools are progressing in this area and how you can reach out to them rooted in the data to have conversations about, we see that you're only completing at 15%. How can we support you with increasing that number? These 10 families are in our community-based organization, and we're committing to serving these 10 families and walking them through the FAFSA process and getting them connected to the appropriate supports. Gone are the days where we're asking organizations to just send students over to U Aspire or CAC or an organization that has been historically in this space. While they are doing the very best that they can, we have to share the responsibility with these families because the need is so great. So we want to just collaborate, not just always hand off a student, but make sure that you're constantly checking in with them to see where they are and the family to see where they are in the application process. So here you'll see that the data monitoring, the data tracking is very critical. Some will receive student level data, others will receive school level data, but we want the data to really drive our strategy and our coordination and our work together. Coming down the pike, we are having a series of virtual student application or information sessions on Tuesdays. It's called Money Talk Tuesdays, where we're partnering with MIFA, as well as Mass EdCo, U Aspire, and UMass Boston, as well as others who are coming to the table to engage our families in 30-minute evening sessions. So a 30-minute presentation and then another 30 minutes of just, let's talk through some of your most pressing questions. And then let's share with you the resources that's available at your school or within your community, and then work with them to do a warm handoff, right? So making sure that they know that these resources are going to be kind to them and sensitive to their unique family situations, and really reassure reassure them that, they could be vulnerable and share information that they're concerned about, or any of their worries about their child transitioning into college and the overall FAFSA process. So here again, our goal for the class of 2021, um, the goal against the senior class, right? So the whole senior number is to have at least 60% see that completion rate move from 22% to more around 60% by March 15th. Now, when we get to that date, we will message it differently, because what we don't want to do is for families to think, oh, March 15th has passed and I can no longer submit my FAFSA. But we felt like we needed to put an internal date there, so we're all moving towards one goal. And I hope that makes sense and resonates with folks, and you guys can really jump on our bandwagon around that particular date. So next slide, Juan, and I'll ask Catherine to take us home.
Yeah. So here, I put the link to the slide deck in the chat box. So if you could actually go to the slide and click here to go to our share template. Juan, if you can click into it and open it. But if I could ask everybody who's on the call, please just go into the slide, and you should be able to hopefully be able to edit.
Oh, let me see if I can make sure that I change the, did you change the permissions, Catherine?
Yes, it should be
Okay.
open edit.
Okay. So Catherine, I think what it would be good is for you to just highlight some of the micro steps in the FAFSA
Yep.
submission process.
So I think everybody who's on this call, and this is where we would love for you to, as a part of this pledge, put the name of your organization. And I know that it's not necessarily you, because you guys are on the post-secondary side, but who might be willing to really join this initiative with the Boston Public Schools, so that we can see that 60% of our seniors work toward having their FAFSA done by March 15th, because we are going out and asking colleges to say, can you make sure that you turn around the financial aid packaging within 2 weeks if the students get this done by the 15th? And so as they get accepted, they also have financial aid and understand that this is possible. It is really hard, but it's possible. What does it mean for our students? I know a lot of times the students are like, oh, Miss, it's okay, Miss Chu, I've already talked to Miss Innes about my FAFSA. And what that means for them is they looked at the website, or they might have gone over some general information. What we're talking about is journeying with the students, holding their hand, and being intrusive, but in a caring way. Um, it's taking every single micro step with them and asking for confirmation. Has the parent gotten their username and login, what used to be called the FAFSA ID, but now it's just the FAFSA username and the login? Has the parent gotten that? Has the student gotten that? So those are the first two micro steps. Then the next one is actually sitting down and filling in the FAFSA. And then another micro step would be, after they've hit submit, getting the student aid report. And then the next step would be, is it confirmed on the student aid report with an expected family contribution that on the last page, there's confirmation of where that report has been sent to. So if you can put into the slide, into the document, hopefully you are able to actually edit it. Please let me know if you're not able to edit, that we would love to see your organization and give a pledge, but also, like, in this box, post your questions, and what other ideas do you have. So Juan, I guess, if people could just go into that slide and just actually put some of their ideas. I see one person's
Catherine, maybe you can just plump that one slide into the
The
chat
link,
box.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and then we will send all of this out after this presentation, so you'll have an opportunity to just, connect back with the powers that be at your respective organizations and say, hey, this is a big thing that we all are committing to as a city. And what do we think? How do we think we can support this? Maybe you might have a connection with the banner where we would be able to get some low cost advertisement in the paper, a full page, complete your FAFSA, and here are the resources to do so. So we're just really looking again for collective impact here. And I'm hopeful that we can really move our students in this area, despite everything that they're facing right now.
And if you have any suggestions, because I do think, and maybe asking your students, I it is hard. It is hard to talk about for our seniors to think about next year, because for Boston high schools, um, most of our students haven't been in school since January. I mean, since March 19th of last spring. And so it's really hard for them to even think about September 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we know that we need them to fill this out so that they're going to be the ones that are figuring out the solutions to this pandemic and the solutions to the inequality and dismantling some of the the systems that are set up. So I thank you for, please, we'll be sharing the slide deck with you, but that pledge box will be open, and so it's great to see your ideas and what your organizations, because each one of you guys also work with students who are still in high school,
Mm-hmm.
how you can support the students all the way through having a student aid report and a calculated EFC and confirming that it was sent to a college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Marcia?
Thank you all. I guess one, I'm not sure if time permits for if there's any pressing questions here, we can definitely respond to them. See something's
If
coming
folks
up.
have questions, yeah, feel free to put them in the chat or uh, just ask away. We definitely have time.
I have a question. So I'm curious, it seems like from the responses in the document so far, like I think we all internally have a pretty high FAFSA completion goal for our students that are currently in our programs.
Yeah.
That's like 90% or more, I would
Mm-hmm.
guess. So I'm wondering if this ask is for our current students or if you're hoping that we'll sort of reach out to support more students beyond the ones that are currently in our programs.
We would love it if you're able to help in any way. What we are doing as BPS initiatives is, what I'd like to do is connect with you offline and get a roster of your students and make sure that each of our counselors at the schools know that we want every kid to have a lead FAFSA, somebody to walk with them through the entire journey. And so, for example, Emily, I know you're at the bottom line, so you have kids spread all out. So when you send me your list of the kids and which schools they work at, I'm going to have the counselor tag BL next to their name. And then what that means is then the counselor at the school can say, okay, Emily's organization is going to ensure, really commit to making sure that kid has a student aid report. It's sent to a school. And then ideally, that they got a financial aid package and have discussed it with them. I just know if we get them to that, get the SAR sent to a college, the second part will happen. It's kind of my proxy, because if a kid got through that far, they're going to keep going with us. Then, for example, let's say English high school, there's 10 kids from bottom line there. Then Christina Calderon and Lisa Tuccinardi, who are the school counselors, can go through their list of seniors and say, okay, we need to, Emily's got those kids, okay, or whoever's the bottom line advisor. They got them. We're going to focus on FAFSA wise, making sure the kids are matched with other partners that we are
Mm-hmm.
asking to step up. So that's the other ask that we're asking of your organizations, that please be in touch with me following this and coordinating the list so that I can just make sure, like what Marsha and my goal is. I mean, this is getting micro, but this is what it takes to get it done. Like I want a name tagged to every single senior at English High School, and that somebody will be, I love the fact that our counselor said, you know, Catherine, the kids are like blocking my calls because they're so sick of hearing from us. And I say, and we still keep reaching out, because I think the kids know it's like, nope, I'm not giving up on you. And I care about you and your family's future to push you to do hard things. And that's what it is. So Emily, so thank you for raising that question. I think the other part that is super helpful, Juan, if you can go back to the slide, I think it's slide number 4. So this is the 2021 FAFSA status that we did the analysis for you. On the bottom there's the link to the 2021 school level FAFSA completion status. We can update that number. And so like if there's a school like that you guys are able to pledge to help more, then you could see week by week.
Can you just click on that link just so folks can see? And this is what we will be sending out to you all every 2 weeks. So you will be able to see this broken down at the school level.
I think this kind of gets to my question, like, would it be helpful, like if internally, if we could organize like outreach or support for individual high schools to say like, do you want us to hold workshops for students who are not already in our program? Like I would
Yes.
imagine that.
Yes, the answer is yes. So
But
please,
like I would imagine we'd be
please
happy
reach
to do
out to
that.
me. So what we are doing, and I want to be mindful of time because I really appreciate Juan putting us on the agenda. We have lined up 4 overviews, which is what Marsha said. We're calling them Money Talk Tuesdays. But the goal of that is to get everybody warmly connected, knowing that there's a city behind this initiative. And then each of the schools, what helps is we can't do in-person FAFSA. But if we say, okay, this one day at English High School, I'm just going to use them because I love Lisa and Christina over there. But they have a very needy population, you know, like high ELs and high students with disabilities and high economically disadvantaged, but also high mobility. So if they commit to like this one day where they can send out to all of their parents and students and saying, okay, English High School is having, I'm stealing this from a state, they call it a FAFSA frenzy. You come to our login and we've recruited these volunteers who are gonna, like, they want us, English High School, to reach our 60% goal. And then Emily, if you have people who are willing to help, then once the people come to that Zoom link, we can put them, like we can say, go set up your one-on-one contact so you have privacy, but we're here. It's like a virtual FAFSA completion. Another state called it a FAFSA frenzy. And I was like, okay, I like the rhyme of the name, but the word frenzy in a pandemic doesn't feel good. So I'm like, I need a calmer word that rhymes with F, alliterates with F. But that's the kind of pledge. Like if you think your organization can do that, put that in the pledge box and put your contact information and I will definitely reach out to you. So we have the first 4 Tuesdays starting June 19th. Carmen from MIFA will be doing January 19th in Spanish. So again, it's 1 hour, but it's like, we want the quick and dirty version of financial aid overview with a lot of good questions. And then the goal of that is to steer people to the individual schools. And if we had a schedule of when we're going to do, you know, cash, when they're going to have their on-site, virtual FAFSA support, then we can be able to share out those direct information also. So that would be great. And I really appreciate your, on behalf of the bottom line, thinking along those lines of how to help a school. So thank you.
So
But
Joel
this,
had a quick question about if the primary liaisons from Success Boston can get connected with their high school to get this done.
awesome. Yep, just give me the list of who's the liaison and I will be in touch with you to coordinate all of this.
Yeah, we want to be the intermediary for a lot of this because our counselors are getting all types of information from all of us. And so we want to make sure that Catherine and I are the holders of what is the strategy for each school and which organizations are, reaching out and adding a deeper level of support structures for that particular school.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think what Joelle mentioned about the liaisons, that connects perfectly to our February meeting with BUCAC, where we have specific organizations connect as primary or secondary orgs to each high school and BPS. And I think that can help everybody with the completion of FAFSA and also getting organizations connected to students to potentially recruit them for this next class. So
Wonderful.
I think it would help everybody. And yeah, looking at these numbers with the schools, yeah, the exam schools are the top three, and then we have other schools who definitely need a lot of support with this. So yeah, hopefully we can get some work done on this. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you,
Thank you.
Catherine. Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing these numbers increase with all of your support and our goodwill. So we'll continue to get this